The Democratic primaries. 25 Democrats eye the presidency. But what do they actually believe? Welcome to America Uncovered. I'm Chris Chappell. I'm still in Hong Kong for our other show, China Uncensored. However, politics in America continue to happen at a furious pace without me. For example, the Democratic primary debates last week, where all the candidates say they get along, while actually looking for any opportunity to tear each other down. You know, politics. And this election season, the Democratic Party has a lot of candidates that have to pretend to get along. And that's just the 10 candidates from the first night of debates. NBC hosted a second night with an additional 10 candidates. And there were 5 more candidates that didn't even qualify for the debates. I've never even heard of some of these people. John Hickenlooper? Is that even a real name? And then there's this woman, Marianne Williamson, who you probably never heard of before, but surely you have now. When the candidates were asked to describe in 1 or 2 words what would be the first issue of their presidency, she responded like this.
First call is to Prime Minister of New Zealand, who said that her goal is to make New Zealand the place where it's the best place in the world for a child to grow up. And I will tell her girlfriend you are so on, because the United States of America is going to be the best place in the world for a child to grow up.
Ms. Williamson,
So her first policy initiative would be to call the prime minister of a tiny country with more sheep than people. Got it. Author Maureen Johnson compared Williamson to a sentient glass of Chardonnay. So this twin set of Democratic primary debates was definitely unique. And a lot of these candidates are polling at just 1%. But keep in mind, in June 2015, at the same point in this election cycle 4 years ago, this guy was polling at just 1%. So maybe in 12 months we'll see Williamson facing off against Trump.
I'm going to harness love for political purposes. I will meet you on that field, and sir, love will win.
Of course, the point of the Democratic primaries is not to defeat Trump. The point is to defeat each other. So how will this fleet of Democratic candidates distinguish themselves from each other? Today on America Uncovered, we look at the actual policy positions of these candidates. No, not all 25. We'll just take the top 8, according to polling data. And we didn't look at just what the candidates said during the debates. We looked at their actual policy positions on issues that Democratic voters care about, including what each candidate has said or written about in the past. The first issue is illegal immigration. Most of the top 8 Democratic candidates oppose the construction of a border wall, specifically Trump's border wall. Obviously, no comment on the 130 miles of border walls and fences built under Obama. Only Andrew Yang hasn't specifically said he opposes or supports the wall. Most of them also oppose Trump's travel ban, which suspends issuing visas to people from 5 Muslim-majority countries, plus North Korea and Venezuela. Buttigieg and Yang have been more nuanced about it. They want you to know they definitely don't support Trump, but also national security is important. What makes this more interesting is that Trump's selection of those 5 Muslim-majority countries was actually based on a list created by Obama, which is to say, Obama's Vice President Joe Biden doesn't support Obama's list that Trump implemented. I guess election politics require a certain amount of selective memory. Also in the immigration debate, DACA. That's a policy that protects illegal immigrants who came to the U.S. as children and grew up here. Obama implemented DACA as an executive order in 2012 because Congress failed to come up with a law to fundamentally resolve the issue. Trump initially opposed DACA, but then he extended it too, while waiting for Congress to act by passing a comprehensive immigration bill. All 8 of the top Democratic candidates support extending DACA, which means they also probably have no faith Congress will ever act. Moving on to healthcare. Because if there's anything more complicated than illegal immigration, it's healthcare. All 8 of the top Democratic candidates support a type of universal health care, as opposed to the current system of, oh great, the website's down, so what the heck am I supposed to do now? Biden, Buttigieg, O'Rourke, Booker, and Yang support various systems where taxpayer money ensures that everyone has health care, but still allows for people to choose private options or get health care through their employers. Sanders, Warren, and Harris support a single-payer system. In a single-payer system, that single payer is the U.S. government, which pays for everyone's health care directly through tax revenue, which means it can also be described as an all-of-us payer system. None of the candidates support the current system, which I guess is Obamacare. Moving on to that one thing every candidate has to say they're going to solve: the economy. All the candidates support a federal minimum wage of $15 an hour, except for Andrew Yang, who says we don't need it because instead he wants universal basic income, where each citizen simply gets a check for $1,000 a month. None of the other candidates are advocating for that. All of the 8 candidates support paid family leave in some form or another. That's where the government pays for maternity and paternity leave, and potentially other family-related leave. There's also the idea of guaranteed jobs. In this proposal, the government would have to create and provide jobs for anyone who says they want one and can't get one from a private business. Sanders and Harris support this proposal, while other candidates generally consider it too radical. I mean, what happens if the government assigns you to a job you hate, like pet food taster, which is a real job? No, seriously, it is. Anyway, Cory Booker wants to try out the guaranteed jobs concept first. He's authored a bill that would guarantee jobs in 15 urban and rural areas to test if the concept could work nationwide. And speaking of jobs, right-to-work laws. The name is confusing, like so many things in politics. Right-to-work laws mean that a person should be allowed to do a job without being part of a union. It's been controversial. It would mean that unions don't get to control who gets a job, and also that they can't set the standard for who's qualified to do that job. Realistically, the right to work without a union in most places would mean more people get jobs, but possibly for lower wages. All of the candidates oppose or want to severely limit right-to-work laws, which is also to say they support unions. And finally, climate change. This election cycle, it's actually something everyone seems to have in common. Every Democratic candidate supports having the U.S. sign the Paris Agreement on climate change. That's not a surprise. What is a surprise is that they also all say they support the Green New Deal. That's the much more radical proposal by Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. I did an episode about that in February, and as I said at the time, is that a lot of people in her own party are concerned she's too far to the left. Apparently, that's no longer the case. On the other hand, traditionally, presidential candidates pander to their base during the primary. Then the winner moves towards the center for the general election. Well, except for Trump. He didn't move to the center, or maybe we all just misunderstood where the center was. So that's the basic rundown of some of the key issues among the top Democratic candidates. Of course, candidates may change or clarify their position as the election season goes on. And of course, the primary debates aren't necessarily the best way to understand actual issues. They're mainly just a way for candidates to score political points with catchy sound bites, while other candidates look mildly annoyed, until they get to make their own catchy sound bites. And then the winner changes their position for the general election. But hey, we've got 12 more months of primaries to enjoy first. Thanks for watching this episode of America Uncovered. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. See you next time.